To know caribou is to love caribou. I was 17 years old when I first laid my hands on a Boreal caribou. I worked for a couple of summers helping on the radio coloring team. I have literally spent my entire career intimately involved with Boreal caribou. In the early years prior to this program, you would work on one herd at a time, get some funding, put some collars on one herd, and a little snapshot, maybe a couple of years of data.
Boreal caribou were really quite neglected, and this funding really provided an opportunity to really give us a good understanding of the basic distribution and habitat and population status of these herds that we didn't have before. Really basic fundamental information that you need for any type of recovery planning and conservation actions. Linear features are the roads and the pipelines and the seismic lines that sort of are scattered across caribou range. And even though the actual total amount is not that great, the fact that they're so widespread means that there's very few areas out there on Boreal caribou range that aren't quite close to one of these linear features. And what they do is provide access for predators to get into the caribou range.
We were starting in a position where we had some pretty significant knowledge gaps, understanding the state of the population, the number of animals. And so working together, we were able to define the problem, and then industry was prepared to invest some time and resources and some of their technical expertise to help.
So the RMB has been able to bring some of the industry and government players together to provide a forum for this. I'm hoping that this is a starting point to see the benefit of involving the local First Nations in research and projects.
I think in this case it was a willingness of everybody to work together. We were very fortunate when government first came to us and said, is there a way that we can look at something that we could do together to improve and help to recover caribou?
It was really given the opportunity to advance the science. We would be using educated guesses as, minimizing linear corridor development and right-of-way width and whatnot. But with this REM project and the funding opportunity, it's given us a chance to have researchers looking at how effective mitigation measures are. So now we're not really just flying blind, we are actually starting to understand what's the most effective measure.
Is enter into the whole idea of restoration of some of the habitat. Ultimately, the conservation of these caribou is going to require recovering the habitat over time. And we've started into that with a number of different habitat linear feature restoration projects.
Really the time for action is now. So we've really bolstered our understanding of science and about caribou. We need to start implementing some actual policy and management issues that are going to influence some change.
To go from a stage of filling knowledge gaps to, by the end of the partnership, actually being able to test new approaches to managing land was a significant step forward in our view.
It's important from a species conservation perspective, but these animals are literally in my blood after decades.
Funding for this initiative came from BC's oil and gas sector. The sector contributed over $9.4 million via BC OGRIS. The project was a first-of-its-kind collaboration between industry and the government with field involvement from First Nations, focusing on defining the current state of the Boreal caribou population and identifying management actions we can take to aid recovery of these populations. With Phase 1 of this initiative complete, we are now ready to start putting that knowledge into action by shifting from a research focus to on-the-ground habitat restoration, by continuing to fund appropriate research under BC OGRIS but eliminating any special levy and fund management, and by continuing to leverage the excellent relationship and research that came out of the dedicated BC OGRIS funding.